serious.
I doubt it. I hope not, because this is going to get real boring.
Cruise
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Airborne Canines, the Dog Dialectic Podcast. I am your host, Ashley Jacobson. I am joined today by my lovely co-host, Kelly Ortega. And tonight we have our special guest, Allie Stocks, who's going to be helping us talk about the sport of IGP in the context of dog sports and the dog training world. So, first and foremost, before we get into any of the content for today, let's go over some of our updates. This weekend, Airborne Canine will be at the RH Nationals. That is here in North Carolina. The Nationals is being held in Carthage. I don't know, it's like 5 minutes down the road from my house. So, and I'm in Sanford. So if you're in the Sanford area, Carthage area, North Carolina, join us for the RH Nationals. It's going to be amazing. If you need to find the address, it is on the USCA website, which is GermanShepherdDog.com. Just look for the RH Nationals information. We will have our entire line of merchandise, collars, leashes, everything in between, toys, tug toys, remote collars, you name it, we'll have it. Kelly, what updates do we have?
Reminder, Airborne Canine is now in Central Texas. If you are a Central Texas person, I am here. Don't forget to follow our social media, Airborne Canine Facebook, Airborne Canine Texas on Facebook, and the same throughout TikTok and Instagram for both of us. And then, Allie, do you have social media to plug?
No.
No?
I mean, I have social media, but it is not curated. So, no, absolutely not.
Okay.
Love it. That's fine.
Find her.
Yeah. And, another thing, Airborne Canine here in Sanford, North Carolina, we are fully stocked in Inukshuk. Big news that came out just today. If your dog is eating Victor dog food, Victor brand dog food, there has been a recall on essentially like all Victor dog food for salmonella. If you are looking for a healthy alternative, a really high quality dog food, Inukshuk dog food is the way to go. Let me know. I have it in bulk. If you need to buy multiple bags, you totally can. We have all formulas here ready to go. Fresh pallet, so we know they're not expired.
I have 2.5 whole bags of Victor in my garage.
Oh no!
All of them are part of the recall.
Yeah.
Aren't they taking all of them like as returns and giving you money back, or?
I assume so. I have to talk to Chewy, I guess.
Well, Allie, if you need a replacement dog food, we have Inukshuk for you.
Do you have a place for me?
Yep. All right. Let me see. Upcoming events next weekend is the American Schutzhund Nationals, and that is going to be up in Missouri. I can't remember what state is MO.
Missouri.
Yes.
Missouri.
Score 1.
Yeah,
you're geography. So American Schutzhund is actually a really cool sport. It's very similar to IGP, which is going to be the sport we're going to be focusing on today. We will talk a little bit about the differences, and we'll talk about IGP in the context of other sports. So I think that's probably about it. If there's anything else, we'll talk about it. Oh, little update. Airborne Canine just got in a rescue dog. We are helping with rehoming a rescue Chesapeake Bay Retriever, super sweet dog, a little bit of medical neglect, so the dog is massively overweight, so we're going to help with that. This dog is now switching over to Inukshuk dog food. So, but, you know, the dogs stay with us as part of their journey to the rescue. The dog was just surrendered today, was being held by the vet today, and then we got contacted by the rescue to help transition the dog from where they were to where they're going. So if you are interested in a beautiful, sweet, little fat Chesapeake Bay Retriever, you can let us know and we'll put you in contact with the rescue. Super sweet dog, just needs a little bit of attention. So,
how old is he? Is it he? She?
She. I don't know. I think she's probably like middle age, maybe like 4 or 5-ish. Are you interested?
No. There are too many dogs at my house.
Is her name Chessie? Is that her name?
Don't know. I have to check. I didn't find out her name.
Terribly stereotypical name for a Chesapeake Bay.
No, I get all of Ashley's notifications on my phone, so I knew this was happening before you announced this happening. I just, you didn't answer my phone call, so I couldn't ask.
I was busy. Okay.
Well, you get all of. Sorry, into dogs. You get all of her notifications.
Yeah, because we shared the Airborne Canine email account. Is contact the Airborne Canine if you needed to talk. So all of her Google texts come through me, and then we also share the same Meta Business Suite with our 2 pages. So all of her DMs come to me, and so yeah.
Wow.
We also share our locations with each other on our iPhones.
Okay, well, Brooke and I share our locations, but we are not codependent enough to share notifications.
Well, no, it's not like all of her notifications. It's like business stuff. Like it's not like I'm getting.
Okay, I guess we do share those, but
I don't get personal messages anyway.
That solves that problem then.
Yeah. It's fine. I can literally get rid of my personal cell phone and my personal email address, and nothing in my life would change. So.
That kind of sounds nice.
I know. Okay, so let's start talking about IGP. But first, Allie, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you kind of do in the dog world, where you got started, and where your primary focus is.
Oh gosh, that's a lot all at once.
I believe in you.
Okay, I'm Allie. I do IGP. Primarily, mostly, entirely. I've never competed in another sport, so that's the whole thing. I got into the sport because I got a Malinois and she needed some exercise. Why I got a Malinois is always a question I get asked because I had no experience with them. I had no dog experience beyond like childhood dogs. But I lived in Memphis in an apartment. And my parents were insistent that I needed a gun. And so I compromised by getting a scary dog instead.
That's awesome.
It worked. I mean, it worked. It got my parents off my back. And then Sully, she's my 6.5-year-old. She's 6.5, Malinois now. She was crazy as a puppy, as all Malinois are. And there was a Schutzen Club in Memphis, the Memphis Schutzen Club. And I went out one day and she got one bite of a vice like wedge and she was in love.
Ooh.
And so then I was spending every weekend with them and spending lots of money. So we kind of got hooked there and it's been over since. Just taken all my money and time since 6 years ago. So.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about what you have achieved so far in your IGP journey.
Sure. Sully and I have gotten our IGP 3. She is now retired because she has hip dysplasia in her left hip, much to our dismay. Like she would have loved to keep going forever and ever and ever. But we got a club level 3 and decided to call it at that point. Now I have a German Shepherd who is 2.5, I think. 2.5.
Wow.
Does that sound right?
I don't know.
Right to you? Okay.
Wait, well, you got her around the same time I had Medic, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because we both had the puppies at club, I think.
Yes.
Yep. And so, yeah, because Medic's 2.5.
2.5. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Yep.
And we just got our BH in the end of September. So
I was there. It was an amazing performance. It was great.
It could have been better.
It can always be better. Shut up.
Yeah. So we're just gonna see how far we can go. We have dreams of competing regionally and hopefully one day nationally, but I don't know. We're figuring it out still. She's only my second. So
I love it. That's great. Awesome. Cool. Okay. So I know a lot of our listeners have no idea what IGP is other than 3 letters that exist in the alphabet. So what I do know about IGP is that the letters IGP stand for something in German.
Yep. Do you want me to tell you what it stands for in German? Because
Yes,
I can't
please.
it, and also I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then no.
Yeah. Whenever I tell anybody, I never tell them IGP. I always tell them I do Schutzend. Because that seems, I don't know, easier to understand.
So why do people understand that it's called Schutzen?
It sounds like a real name instead of an abbreviation.
Well, that and the fact that it used to be called Schutzen, right?
It did, yes.
Yeah.
It used to be called Schutzen. Then it was called IPO.
Which
And
also
then they
stands for something in
big, long
German.
German thing.
Yep.
And then now it's IGP. And that was only a couple of years ago that they switched to IGP.
It's been a few years.
Yeah. It's been in the time that I've been in the sport, which feels like not that long.
Yeah. It was before I started. So, and that was only 2.5 years ago.
Yeah. So between 2017 and 2021.
Yeah. Sometime around then.
That feels like we really nailed it. So
yeah. Good. Perfect. I love it. Okay. So it stands for something in German. The German translation is essentially international utility dog, I think.
Yes.
If you didn't know that, now you know. I had to do some research just so we can do this podcast. Yeah.
Oh, that's really advanced.
I know. I shit you not, I read the rule book.
But you had already done that.
Multiple times.
Did you read the bylaws?
Yes.
And yeah? Okay.
Yeah, because we had that conversation. So I got really upset when someone yelled at me for using the wrong word during trial. Yeah. And you can't have a bite command, which is stupid. We'll talk about that. But I couldn't find it anywhere in the rule book, and I still don't know the bylaws, whatever. It's in there somewhere, buried in the text. I'm not reading the bylaws to go trial. So.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the way it's referenced in the rule book isn't actually explicit either. But to be fair, I haven't read the FCI rules in a while. So.
Yeah. I don't know. But the biggest thing was when I got mad about the fact that I couldn't say the word watch for my transport command.
Oh, yeah, it has to be transport or heel.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Well, apparently, in French ring, apparently you have to use French.
Do you really?
I think so. I think I heard someone say that. I haven't read that rule book yet.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't looked into it at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm going to do French ring. Medic got a CSAU, so now might as well. Why not?
I support.
So, okay. So tell us a little bit about what IGP entails. What is the sport all about? What are the phases, everything like that?
Sure. So IGP was, back when it was Schutzen, was originally a German Shepherd breeding suitability test. And the things that they wanted to test the dogs on were tracking, obedience, and protection work. And over the years, they have kind of shifted away from what was the original purpose, and now it is largely a sport. Some people still use it as a breed suitability test. There are still breed surveys and other things that you can get accomplished within the IGP window field that certifies your dog for breeding, makes it a better breeding idea. So there's tracking, which is footstep to footstep tracking. So it's not air scenting, it's deep nose in the ground tracking.
Yes. Oh God, I hate it so much. Medic is so bad at it. He's like, I can see the article. It's right over there. Why do I have to sniff the ground? I don't get it.
Sully was also very bad at it. Very bad at it. And then there's a obedience routine, which shows the handler's control of the dog. And then there's like a retrieve and an over the hurdle to demonstrate agility. And then there's the protection routine where they get to actually bite people. And we get to see the actual spirit of the dog. So, yeah, and you get graded 1 to 100 scale for each of those phases for a total score out of 300. And Sully just broke her place completely to come say hello.
Oh no. IGP3 dog over here.
She's retired. She's retired. She's just a baby.
They're all just babies.
Because Sully broke her place, Prue broke her place to go mess with Bane, and now they're all up.
Chaos is breaking out.
Chaos is breaking out.
Do you need a moment to regain control of your life?
They've all completely this is what's happening.
We might keep this in. I think people might want to see this part.
That's fine. Sully desperately wants Bane to love her, and he desperately does not want that. Okay.
All right. Where were we?
Talking about the phases. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So the 3 phases of IGP are tracking, obedience, and protection.
Yeah.
Cool. So when you're going to trial, you have to trial in all 3 phases?
Not all the time. If you want the full IGP title, you have to compete in all of them, but they also offer titles in individual, in tracking, and obedience phases. And then you can get a combined GPR, which is obedience and protection. And then there's like additional titles that are like more advanced tracking, which is like FH. And then there's the AD, which is like an endurance test. And the BH, which is the initial temperament test.
And
I think that's the titles.
STP.
What's that?
Yeah, I know. I didn't know about it either. I was reading the rule book. It's so cool.
I've definitely heard the initials, but I don't remember what it is.
So other than Stone Temple Pilots, STP, yeah, that's probably why you heard it. STP is the article indication test.
Oh, yes!
Yeah, I get super excited when I saw it.
Article search where,
it's an area search.
It's very much like the AS1 scenting.
Yep.
Yes, they're like almost identical. Yes.
I got super excited when I saw that because if you haven't noticed, I hate tracking. But Medic loves searching. He loves hunting, like scent hunting. And so he loves articles too, like indicating on articles. He's great at it. He just hates following the footsteps. So if we could just take out the footsteps and let him do everything else, boom.
Perfect.
Area search, article indication. But
yeah,
I don't want to do that title until after we go as far as we can with the tracking.
Your footstep to footstep tracking? Yes.
Yeah. Because if he gets rewarded for not following the footsteps and just finding the articles, he's going to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That would create an issue.
Yeah. Man, oh man. So if somebody wanted to get into IGP and start doing it, what would you recommend to them?
Oh boy. My answer now is different than it used to be.
Oh, okay. So what was the answer first? What did it used to be?
So like the typical answer here is to find a club, visit the club, learn about the sport, learn about how your dog can do the sport, and go from there. That a club is going to educate you and how the sport runs and how the dog sport life is and how you can best serve your dog by training it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would probably advise people to find someone who does the sport, who they trust and can have a mentor. In a much more individualized setting. So you can find a trainer that does it, or a helper that does helper work, and go and visit them one-on-one. That's probably what I would recommend these days. But that's a lot less accessible for a lot of people. So clubs are generally the best way.
Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from, honestly. And you know, I love the recommendation of finding someone and working with them one-on-one. Because it guarantees that you're going to get the help and guidance that you need. Whereas sometimes in a club setting, depending on like what type of club is, what the environment is, what the community is like, sometimes you can kind of get lost in the sauce, kind of overlooked. Your training doesn't necessarily get prioritized when you're first starting out, especially as those who maybe have been doing it for a while. And, you know, I've seen it in some clubs that happens. It's super unfortunate. And if you're in a club and you feel like that's happening, that's not everywhere. There are clubs where everybody, regardless of how long you've been there, if it's your first day or if you've been there for years, like everyone gets the same level of attention, time, and everything. So yeah, it sucks that there's a lot of clubs that unfortunately don't have the best reputation for giving you the help and guidance that you need. So
it's a lot like dating, where you have to go to lots of them to find the right one.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. That's right.
Thank you. I really try.
Yeah.
It's rough out there, man.
Another fun fact is if you get this deep into dog training, you don't have to worry about dating anymore.
Accurate.
So what was your experience with some clubs that you trained with?
So I started out at a really, really small club, and everybody, I don't know, most clubs I've been to, most clubs I've been to, they can be a little standoffish at first, right? There's a lot of time and effort that goes into training a dog and training handlers to work in IGP. And it's a huge time commitment. And when someone first visits a club, you don't know if they're going to put in the work. And so I can understand that it can be hard to put in a lot of effort into every new member that comes out to a club. Like, I get that. But my first club they were so nice and so helpful. Like once I showed up like 3 times, they're like, "Oh, you're in it." I'm like, "Yeah, you can't get rid of me." I'm really tenacious, which is maybe a problem sometimes.
Oh no.
But no, my first club was interesting in that we didn't have a full-time helper. We had a helper come out once a month and trained all 3 phases over a 2 to 3 day weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So every other weekend, we basically just did tracking and obedience. And it was just other club members helping other club members.
Okay.
But what was great about Memphis is that it was just like when I joined, there were like 4 or 5 active members. Like we were really small and tight.
That is really small.
It is. And it's, I don't know, it was nice. And I was only there for like 9 months before Sully and I moved to North Carolina. But like they really got me addicted. So like I picked out my house that I bought because of its distance from my place of employment and the IGP club I wanted to go to. Like it was equidistance from both.
Bruh, dude, like I literally bought this house I live in now specifically for how close it is to the dog training club I participate in.
Right. So, I mean, I did the same thing. But I had never been to that club when I bought my house.
What?
Yeah. Or I had been out once.
Mm.
And I was like, well, this seems like the best, so we're gonna do it.
Wow. Okay.
Then I bought a house. I mean, my friend also lives in the same town, so like it's not like the only reason, but it did rank this house much higher than a lot of other houses.
Makes sense. I like it. Okay.
So
Nice.
Yeah. And then when I moved here, I joined a much, much larger club. And that is a very different atmosphere than the small club that I was in before. There was a lot more activity. We did protection 2 nights a week, 2 days a week, which felt infinitely more than I got in Memphis. And so it was easy to see like really fast progression with Sully because she got so much more work than she did in Memphis. Just because there was just more contact hours in that sense. But a bigger club means that there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of different attitudes and people, and it gets complicated. Like clubs in general are complicated social organisms.
Oh, they so are.
Which a lot of like any kind of hobby club or group, specialty group can be, right? It's not solely dog sports that this brings out, but dog sports have a certain brand of crazy people. And I think we can agree that we are part of those crazy people.
Yep, we are.
Yeah, and so, I don't know, bigger club was a lot to learn. And I learned a heck of a lot in the 4 years I was there.
Oh, wow.
And then it got to be, it was too much in the sense that there wasn't the amount of time that I wanted. I wasn't getting the help that I needed anymore. And so I left club and now I mainly work on my own. I visit trainers around the area. We go down and train with some people a couple times a month. But we're really focused on growing as a team. We've been able to do that a little better with directed focus, one-on-one guidance. So
very
that's
nice.
why I left. So
that's awesome. Cool. Sweet. And so what is now, I know you just got your BH with Prue, and what is your outlook as far as like, you know, preparing for your next level trial? What is like your anticipated possible timeline looking like for that? Like how, like, this is to give people an idea of like, oh my God, I need to go put a level 3 on my dog by the time they turn 2 or something.
Oh, yeah. So Prue and I, she's my younger dog, we are taking it slow. So with Sully, I got her BH almost maybe a few months after she turned 18 months, which is the lowest age you can be to get your BH.
I thought it was 15.
Months?
15 months.
It is 15. It's not 1.5, it's 15. She was only a couple months older than that. And we rushed to get our BH. And then we tried to push through it really fast. Then COVID got in the way and that really delayed things. Prue and I are taking it much slower. So she is already 2.5 when we went and got our BH. We don't have plans to do our 1 until maybe the spring. But I have focused a lot on shaping a lot of behaviors that I didn't shape for Sully, and really making it an enjoyable journey for the both of us. And so we are just taking things a lot slower. I am hopeful that within the next 2 years that we will be able to get our 3, but that even feels like it's too fast.
I don't think so. I think that's pretty reasonable. I'm not gonna lie, like, so
I have 1 in the spring, 2 in the fall, 3 in the next spring.
So, like, I just got my GPR 1. Like we talked about earlier, that's the obedience and protection only, no tracking, because I suck at tracking. But it really felt like once I did the 1, like, the 2 was very easy, because it's basically the same, you know, with a little bit of difference. With a higher level standard, of course, what they're scoring. And we're doing the 3 in like 3 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
You are made up of sterner stuff than
I am just a little psychotic when it comes to dog training stuff. I have an addiction, and I need to be constantly reinforced. Otherwise, I lose my mind.
That's fair. I could prepare for a trial forever and never trial and be just fine.
Yeah. I will happily go out there and fail on the trial field like a bunch of times, and I will enjoy every minute of it. As long as my dog does not have a bad experience. And that's the one thing I do like about IGP is that Medic is not going to get run off the field.
No.
So like in PSA, and we're going to start talking a little bit about the differences between the sports. In PSA, the pressure and the forward pressure on the dog is so much greater that the dog could potentially be run off the field by the decoy, by the helper. And that can be a massive learning opportunity that you don't want the dog to have. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's rare that a dog gets run off in IGP.
Yeah. Like I think the biggest issues I had in the level 2 was so the blinds for the field we were at were the permanent blinds. So they looked very different than what we've been training on. We've been training on the big yellow triangle blinds. They had these big wooden blinds that didn't look like a blind to my dog. And so when I see the helper in the blind, it didn't look the way he was used to. And so he got in there and he's like, "What, Revere? I don't understand. It does not compute." So he went into a beautiful silent guard. So he lost a lot of points there. And then he does also have a tendency to out and recall because for PSA, we've been training redirects. And so he was thinking, "Oh, I out and I come to you and I go bite someone else." And he comes back, he's like, "Wait, this is wrong. This isn't right."
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he was fine, though. On trial, he didn't come back to me. He thought about it, but he didn't do it, which is good.
Good.
Yeah. His obedience and the protection is really nice, honestly.
That's great.
Yeah. Better than his obedience in the obedience.
Always obedience and protection was always better than her obedience in obedience.
Right? I love it. Dogs are so weird.
So advice about clubs, like what to look for in a club. It's really, really important that you find a match of personalities that work for you. There's a lot of other things, right? Like finding someone you feel comfortable working with who will work your dog safely and humanely. But if you don't like the people that you're around, you're not going to keep coming to club.
So when if they go to, like, if they, find a club, let's say we find a club, and we say, "Hey, we want to come check out your club," are they expected to pay the first day? What's that process like?
So maybe most clubs, a lot of clubs I've been to allow you to come visit once or twice without having to pay anything, to get a sense of the club, to get a feel of the club, to make that decision before you start paying. Some clubs do charge a visitor fee if you are not a member of their club, and that can range anywhere from $10 to $50 depending on the club and the helper and what kind of work they are doing. And then generally you're expected to either join, which is a annual fee. Fee schedules range from a few hundred to a lot more than that, depending on where you are. And so you pay for the year and then you get access to the club for the year.
Yeah. So I've been in several clubs as well, not just IGP clubs, but other clubs as well. And, a piece of advice I would definitely give people as well would be visit the club as many times as you can. And if that means visiting without your dog, do that, because, it's very easy, I think, for some clubs to try and make a good impression on you when you first get there, day one. But you'll start to see the club's true colors and how things really work after maybe you've been there 3 or 4 times. And if you're showing up and you're maybe not bringing your dog with you, you're not expecting to get help with your dog, get your dog worked, they're less likely to ask you to pay. So it gives you the opportunity to be there a little bit longer before you make that financial investment. And it can let you learn more about the club, watch other people's dogs get worked, stay for the entire time, especially because protection usually happens at the end of the club. And you want to see how dogs are being handled, how they're being trained, how they're being, if they're being corrected, if they're, being heavy on the dog, if they're, what their training techniques are, and everything in between. And, if I know you were in a club that met like 2 days a week, right? Mm-hmm. Were those weekdays, weekends?
We had one weekday evening and then one weekend.
And so if you go to a club that is meeting weekdays and weekends, often it's very different, on a weekday night versus like a weekend morning. Very different kind of mentality, group of people, size of the club too. So if you show up one time on like, a weekday, Monday night, Tuesday night, and there's like 4 people there and you go, wow, this is great. I'm going to get so much one-on-one time. And then you show up on Saturday after you paid your dues and there's 30 people there. You're like, oh, I made a mistake.
Yeah. Weekends are generally much more attended than the weeknights.
Unless you're me, where I'm just trialing every weekend. So I'm always training during the week. And then I'm supposed to be going to a training club tomorrow, but I'm going to the trial instead. And I'm not even trialing.
No, but you're selling stuff. So
yeah, I got to pay the bills so I can pay my entry fees.
Yeah, those really rack up.
They do. Actually, at the last trial I did, I was vending and I was doing my level 2. I was vending when I did my level 1. And someone was like, doesn't it stress you out to have to like vend and trial your dog? And I think I had a client dog with me too. So I was like training the client dog in between vending, in between trialing. And I'm like, well, I have to pay off my entry fees. So yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't do anything else on days I'm trialing.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. Well, like, what do we do? We at the last trial I went to, there was a few level 1s. And so we all did our obedience. And then we're going into the protection. And they're about to start. And I'm like, hey, how many level 1s are there? They're like, oh, you're up. I'm like, what? Oh, I guess I'll go get my dog now.
I would have puked. Full on puked.
Like I completely blew off my whole going onto the field prep.
Oh yeah, your startup routine?
Yeah. Blew that off. I was like, oh, I guess we'll just go. That's fine. It was okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
So you were in the club for a long time. You trained with a lot of people who were training at high levels. A lot of people. You trained with several people who were training at high levels. So you were able to get insights into things that were beyond just like how to train your dog. So we were just talking about getting ready to go onto the field and stuff like that. Are there other kind of things that you would would need to know to be successful in the sport that isn't like in the rule book, let's say, that you got from working with people who are knowledgeable about it? Because now you are that person, by the way.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, you are. I think once you get a level 3 IGP, like, too bad, so sad. You're the subject matter expert. Good job. That's great.
I don't feel like a subject matter expert. That's for sure. I still feel like a baby, like newborn deer wobbling on its legs as I try to figure out how to do this fucking sport. Can I cuss? I can.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, sorry.
We can definitely cuss on this podcast.
I didn't know if we were an upstanding podcast or not.
No.
Got it.
Although next week, Kelly, we can't cuss with Mark. I don't think.
Oh yeah, because he is the monks. Oh, I don't know if I can attend that.
You haven't cussed yet today.
I haven't really talked. No, I'm a very offensive I don't. If he has I'm gonna just leave. If I say something bad, I'm just gonna leave. You'll just.
Well, the only bad thing you're gonna say is the fact that you haven't finished reading all of his books yet.
I've read enough of them.
How many books does he have? I've
only read
the one.
I've read 2 of them. That's enough.
He has Let Dogs Be Dogs, The Art of Training Your Dog, The Art of Raising a Puppy, How to Be Your Dog's Best Friend. There's a newest one that's coming out. It's not out yet, but you can get it pre-ordered. Something Purposeful Play, but that's going to be the topic of our podcast. I should probably look into it. I felt bad because I hadn't read it yet, and I realized it's not even out. So.
Oh, okay. Then you don't have to feel bad about that.
Okay. Your dogs are so like rambunctious.
Yeah. Well, they're also house dogs, which is also breaking an IGP rule if you want to be like successful.
What? You let your dogs be inside the house?
I let my dogs be inside the house, and I let them run wild. They slept in my bed. They hang out on the couch. I'm
telling toys. All the IGP world.
It's the toys that I get the most shit about.
Yeah, I'll give you shit about that too, actually.
Gives me shit.
Listen, they're sad if they don't have toys.
Well, Scooter is like so old, and he was in the shelter for so long, and he just wants to cuddle.
I mean, Sully is retired. What joy does she have in life other than her Chewy, her BarkBox toys? Not a sponsor? Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
Real Dog Box sponsor, yes.
Real Dog Box is a
sponsor? Yeah.
I haven't gotten anything, so I'm going to say not a sponsor of my side of the podcast. Your side of the podcast? Fine. Strict line right down the middle.
Well, basically, if you want to get the Real Dog Box, you can use our referral code. Okay.
That I know now.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the unspoken things that you will get out of training with other people for the sport, because there is a rule book for IGP. Trust me, I've read it. But there's a lot of things that you don't get from the rule book that is necessary to be successful, let's say. And I learned some of these valuable lessons recently. Yes. Not just recently in protection, but also in like tracking. So
what did you learn in tracking?
Essentially like so in tracking, the way that tracking works, actually, Allie, how does tracking work? So when you're on trial, what happens?
So when you are at trial and you drive out to the tracking field, if you are doing your one, you will lay your dog's track. So you're responsible for putting your flag in the ground, walking the required steps, putting down the required articles that are scented with your scent, and then you wait 15 to 20 minutes, and then the track gets run, ideally. 15 to 20 minutes. Ideally?
What does it mean the track gets run?
Oh, you take your dog to the start flag, and you tell your dog to sook, and then you let the line flow out of your hands until you reach the very end of that line. And you hope and you pray that your dog remembers how to use its nose. And then you panic every time you think that you have passed the article or the corner. And you just really hold on for dear life, because there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do in tracking but trust the dog. And just trust the dog. And that's really nerve-wracking, because it all hangs on all the training you've done. And some people will say that there's lots of things you can do with how you hold the line, how much tension you have on the line.
How long is the line?
It's 33 feet.
My God. So your dog is 33 feet away from you.
A mile. It's like a mile away. The dog is a tiny speck of dog out there at the end of that line, and it feels like you will never be close to them again.
Yep.
I'm just so bad at tracking.
And then by some miracle, so you start tracking, right? So let's say you're doing level 1. How many paces is the level 1 track?
The level 1 track is 300 paces.
Okay.
So it's 100 paces.
There you go.
What?
Go ahead.
Yes, it's 100 paces, a turn, 100 paces, a turn, and 100 paces. There is an article on each leg. So each of those before the turn is called a leg. Typically, the first article is about 50 paces away from the start. Technically, you can be anywhere after like 20 paces, I think, from the start. Is that, you read the rule book most recently?
It does not say that.
Oh, it does not say that. That's one of those suspicious things that I've learned undercover, I guess.
Well, so when you go to trial and you show up, yes, it does say that you're gonna have 3 legs. So 100 paces, turn, 100 paces, turn, 100 paces. But the judge is going to determine what the pattern is going to be. There are 2 different types of patterns you could use. One is a horseshoe, so go straight 100 meters, turn right, go straight 100 meters, turn right. And it makes a horseshoe. Or it could be a zigzag kind of, so it could be a right turn and then left turn. The judge makes that decision. Yeah, for the 1. The judge makes that decision, and the judge also decides where the article will be. But there's no determination that says it has to be at least however many paces out.
No.
So that's one of those things where, like, I went there and I was totally honest with the judge. I'm like, yo, I have never trialed in tracking before. I have not been training with a club who does tracking. I just read the rule book and I've been practicing on my own. So hoping she would give me the information I needed to be successful. But she did a great job. She treated me like, she assumed I would, there was information I needed that she gave me, but there were still things she's like, oh, I didn't even think to tell you this because you haven't been training with people who have been doing this. So I went out and laid my track, and she's like, yep. So, you're going to just lay the articles like halfway down the leg. Okay. Mm-hmm. And just do that for each of your legs. I'm like, okay, cool. So literally I went 50 paces, laid my article, 50 paces, turned, 50 paces, laid my article, 50 paces, turn. Now we're getting the third leg.
Did you lay your article in the middle of the leg?
I did. And she was like, oh, shit. And I'm like, oh, no. I laid my article and I'm walking away, finishing out my leg. And I'm like,
okay, so
do I go back?
Just for information, the article has to be at the end of the last leg. That's how you end the track. So if you put it in the middle of the last leg, you don't have an article to end at, which makes it a little more difficult.
Well, the weird thing is that, like, in the rule book, it does say that the track has to continue for at least 10 paces after the article. So in my brain, it makes sense.
Yeah, but the dog's not supposed to track those 10 paces.
Well, why the fuck would it be there then?
So that, what I've heard is that once the dog indicates at the last article and you pick it up, when you tell them to walk away, the dog is supposed to continue listening to you instead of following the track. It's like a test of control, basically.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if that was in the rule book, though.
Listen. I've never seen an IGP1 track be laid where they actually continued 10 paces after without stepping a big step off.
I did it.
Okay. Well, you read the rule book and you're a rule follower. So
I did so good. The other thing that's not in the rule book that I didn't understand is that when my dog, by some miracle, indicated on the article, it was great. I didn't drop the leash when I went up to go get the article.
Yes.
Not in the rule book. And the judge is like, you gotta put the leash down. I'm like, I don't understand.
Yeah, you do have to drop it. What a weird thing to do, if you think about it.
Right? I just held on to the end of it. I was just gonna walk up, grab the article, and then just let him keep going from there while just holding the end of the leash. But I had to leave it on the ground.
Yeah, and I don't even know when I first learned that. I feel like it was just
I learned it on trial.
Inputted in my brain through osmosis.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know.
And it says you can praise your dog when you go to get the article, but it doesn't say like how much, where, when, why, whatever. It just says that you can praise a dog, right? So the judge was like, you can praise either before you pick up the article or after, but not both. Like,
right. And not during.
Not during.
You can bend down, pet the dog, stand up, bend down, pick up the article, and then go.
Oh, it's not in there either.
You can't praise and pick up the article at the same time.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, you'll get dinged for that one too.
Daria is losing her shit right now.
Oh,
can you hear her in the background?
I can't.
Good. Oh wow, this thing really works.
Yeah, I mean, I just have panting.
Yeah. All right. So, can you think of any other like little things that aren't in the rule book that someone who is just kind of winging it on their own might need to know that they're not going to find out from other sources?
Aren't in the rule book. See, I haven't read the rule books this year.
You don't sleep with it under your pillow and learn by osmosis?
You know what? I don't even have a printed copy. No.
I'll get you one.
I don't want one. I don't want one. I had one at one point that stayed in my car. Like somebody gave me one and it stayed in my car so that I could whip it out anytime anybody asked a question at club regarding the rules. But I got rid of it. Or it got lost. I don't know.
Mine is falling apart. I used it way too much.
I don't have it anymore.
So I guess my recommendation is get a rule book. That goes for everybody.
Everybody should read the rule book.
Yeah.
In fact, when you first get a BH on your dog, you have to take a test. And that test requires that you read the rule book and the bylaws. And there's some other third document also.
So what is the truth about how many clubs do the written test?
I thought all of them did.
No. So did I tell you I had to do the BH written test again, despite having my BH certificate with the written test certificate?
Yeah, that's because it wasn't within the time when they were, you told me that.
Yeah, we all sat at a table, cell phones put away, and our test and paper and pen, like in the middle of a fucking field.
Yeah.
Sitting at a table taking the test.
Yeah.
Under supervision.
Oh. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it under supervision.
No. Yeah, that was us. No talking. No nothing.
I feel like most clubs I've seen, they just hand it over and send the people away to do
go
tests.
away, come back when it's done.
Yeah. It's not super strict.
No.
But if you want to do the test right, you have to read the rule book.
Yes, correct.
But generally, someone at a club will give you the answers.
If you are studying, Quizlet.
Yeah,
Quizlet has the BH test in there, and you can do the questions, the flashcards, whatever. Really helpful, because when I found out I had to take the test again, I'm like, I was not prepared for this. I have not read the rule book recently. And I was like, well, I should probably study.
You would have passed.
Yeah. Once I started looking at Quizlet, I was like, oh, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah. That's a bunch of, Also, it hasn't changed since 2019, at least within the USCA.
Yeah.
I can't speak for other organizations. So I feel like it's not getting adjusted to new rules or changing in any significant way.
Yeah, no, it's not. So for the BH, actually, because that's going to be the one thing that I think most people who get into the sport are going to do. Yes. I think, a lot of people get in, they do their BH, and sometimes they just are happy with that. So for the BH, which again is the entry level into IGP. You have to take your BH before you can do the level 1 of any tracking, obedience, or protection.
Before you can do any title at all, even the AG.
Well, technically, the BH is a title, which in other sports, your entry-level test is not a title.
No, it's a certificate.
Exactly. But the BH is an actual title, believe it or not. So, what does the BH consist of?
The BH consists of, generally, there's an obedience portion. So there's an obedience routine. There's part of that is on leash and part of that is off of leash. There's a temperament test in which the judge basically assesses the dog's temperament over the course of the entire day as they are interacting with your dog. And then there's an environmental temperament test. So that looks like having a runner run by your dog and a biker and a car, just to see that your dog is not reactive. And then there's also a part where you tie your dog up and leave them. And then a neutral dog gets walked by. So it's really testing your dog's reactivity to environmental situations. It's not, there's nothing like slick floors or anything that is like, you hear those tippy tappies?
Yes.
Yeah.
So for the BH, what is the whole point of the BH in its entirety?
The point of the BH is to make sure your dog has the temperament to perform in IGP. Generally, that means you can control your dog. Your dog is non-aggressive, and your dog is confident enough to handle these situations.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I think covers it. Thanks, Felix. So it's really aimed at making sure your dog's not going to bite everybody on site. I think is the real goal.
So they don't want you to have any fun. No.
Precisely.
No.
Yeah. It's the entry level drug.
Yeah. It's basically just assessing that your dog is not a threat, not like a liability, let's say. That your dog's not going to bite inappropriately. That's not going to like freak out. It's not terrified of people, cars, environmental factors and stuff like that. Nice. Right. So you've come to a few PSA events, right? You've come to a couple, training days. You've come to a couple trials. And PSA, for those of you who don't know, is the Protection Sports Association. It's the primary sport that I participate in, even though we haven't gone very far in the sport yet because our progression is much slower in PSA than other sports. From your perspective, as someone who has, gone to the highest levels of IGP, got that level 3 IGP title, who's been doing it for half a decade plus at this point, half dozen years. What do you see as, some of the significant differences between the two very different sports?
Oh, wow. I think the one thing that I always come back to is that Schutzen IGP is very regimented. It's a pattern. Like the routines do not change. They change for each level, but they do not change trial to trial. And PSA, where you get like 5 out of 8 scenarios or whatever it is seems chaotic and crazy to me. Yeah. That is the one I always come back to, and is absolutely what I cite when people are like, why don't you just do PSA? And I'm like, I absolutely cannot handle not knowing what's coming next. Like I can't handle learning that like the day of the trial. I thrive on routine.
I like it. Well, for IGP, like the routine itself, like if you go out for that BH, right? The healing pattern is essentially the same for the BH, the level 1, the level 2, the level 3, with pretty minor differences.
Yes.
The BH has an on-leash portion, and then you kind of do it again off-leash followed by, your sit stay, your down stay, and then there's a long down. In the level 1, you have all of those pieces except for the on-leash portion. You come out onto the field on leash, you take off your leash before you start your heeling pattern, right? You do the whole heeling pattern, which is the same pattern, and then you do your retrieves and your send out.
Yes. And a long down.
And the long down, right. And then in the level 2, it's the same pattern. You have to do a stand stay, so that's something that's different for the 2. Your retrieves, you use a different dumbbell for the retrieve on the flat. And you do your send out, and you do a long down. For the level 3, same deal. Your stand stay is just a running stand stay, right?
So is your down.
It's a running down? Well, I should probably learn that.
I'm pretty sure you do a running down in the 2 also.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. There's definitely running in the 2. I definitely ran in the 2.
I definitely did not.
You didn't?
No.
I could have sworn I did.
No.
To be fair, it's been like 4 years.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've done it too. Maybe that was before the rulebook changed.
Maybe.
Because the rulebook changed in 2021.
That would have been before.
I'm gonna reread it. I have my rulebook like right here. Don't tempt me. But yeah, so in the 3, there's a running down stay, I'm assuming, and a running stand stay. And the stand stay is a stand stay with a recall, whereas the stand stay in the 2 is a stand stay and a return.
Yes.
And anytime you're returning to the dog is 15 paces. Anytime you're recalling the dog is 30 paces. It's the level 3 dumbbell on the flat, but then the level 1 dumbbell for the retrieves over the hurdle and the A-frame. Yes. But like in the scheme of the big routine, like these differences are so like different. Like they're so like not different, minor. So the differences are fairly minor, right? But like you were describing for PSA, the differences between like what the routine is going to be for the level for PDC, which is let's say the equivalent of the BH, is your entry level certificate to enter into the sport essentially.
Right.
What the routine is going to be for the level 1. What your protection scenarios are going to be. What your protection scenario could possibly be because they select one of 5 possible scenarios. But yeah, in the level 2, like there are scenarios you will have to do, but they could look different. So basically you have to demonstrate skills, but they could just be in various pictures, right? And there's different aspects of them that could change. So yeah, and then level 3, there are certain things that they have to have throughout the routine, like certain things like a call off, a retrieve, a this or that, that has to be put in there. But the context of those skills can be very widely changed, and the picture and the layout and the order and everything can be changed. So
that's too much for.
Well, the thing is that obedience is obedience.
Well, yes.
Right?
Yes. I'm not saying it's too much for my dog.
No.
I'm saying it's too much for me.
Yeah. Well, so that is something nice too. Okay. So one of the things that I think has been a real challenge with trying to help clients get ready for the BH is not training the dog, because the obedience in of itself is pretty simple stuff, right? And on the BH, I think you're the one who told me, like, listen, if your dog blows off the long down, but you do pretty good in the heeling, you'll pass. If your dog completely blows off the heeling, but does good in the long down, you'll pass. Essentially.
Yeah, it depends on the degree of blowing off.
Yeah. But the standard is very achievable for the BH. But the thing is that, like, the hardest thing that people struggle with is learning the routine, because once you go out onto the IGP field, you go to the judge, you check in, and he says, go to your start point. That's literally the end of the guidance you get on what you're supposed to be doing out there. If you go out there not knowing what the routine is, you're screwed. You're shit out of luck. You have to know how many paces you go and when to turn and where to go and everything in between.
A lot of times, if you're doing your BH and you look at the judge with a really confused, sad look, they will tell you what's next.
That was me. So I remember going out there with Dakota for my very first BH, and we did the healing routine. We did the on-leash portion. And I didn't know that when we took off the leash to go into the off-leash portion, we had to do the 50 paces out again, turn around, normal, fast, slow, normal, back to the start point.
Yes.
So I started walking and tried to do my sit out of motion, and he's like, that's not right. Do it again. I'm like, oh, my dog didn't sit. I'll do it again. So that way, and I told my dog to sit again. He's like, no, you have to do the healing portion again. I'm like, what? And we're like, so thankfully, and I hate to say this, but thankfully the person whose dog was in the long down had broke long ago at this point. So I wasn't like, that's something you have to pay attention to as well, is that in IGP, when you're doing your healing portion, there's always another dog on the field doing a long down and vice versa. So you'll be in the long down while another dog's doing their healing portion. So if you're dilly-dallying and taking your sweet time in that heel, that other dog is sitting there in the long down, and that handler is like, oh my God, hurry up, go faster. Stop talking to the judge, just keep going.
The worst thing is when you're switching the dogs between the two, and you are up and ready to go at the start line, and your dog is in heel, and the person walking to the long down is moseying so slow, and you can feel your dog sinking. You can feel the drive just going away.
So my last trial I was the down dog first. So my dog was in the long down first. I was doing my 2. I got paired up with a 1. And I don't know what was going on or why this happened or whatever, but my dog did great in the long down. I don't love doing long down first because I really feel like my dog is like relaxes too much in the long down.
I would love to do the long down first.
Why?
I think Prue does better when she does the long down first. So for our BH, she did it second. And at that point, we had done the whole healing routine without a reward. And we get to the long down, and she's like, there's supposed to be something now. Whereas when we do the long down first, she's like, okay, this is what we're doing. And then we do the OB portion, and she's like, this is fucking great. She loves doing the work. She hates being still.
No, Medic, like, he gives up. Like, when he's in that long down, he's like, oh, this is one of those times where mom puts me in a down and forgets about me, and then, like, I don't do anything. And he just falls asleep. And he's like, oh, I have to do stuff? This is stupid. But
yeah, I guess that's because Prue doesn't have a down anywhere else.
So, yeah, I guess. So what had happened was, okay, the person finished their routine. They did, what was it? He was doing this one, so he had to do a send out. So I remember I returned my dog, and I'm standing there, so you can't call your dog into the heel position until the judge tells you. So I was standing next to my dog waiting, and I remember standing there for like well over a minute while my dog's still in the down, and I'm like, today?
You give them 30 seconds to tell you, and then you just do it.
Standing there forever, like it was hot out too. It had been so cold lately, and then this one freak weekend, it was like almost 90 degrees outside, and Medic was not having it. But yeah,
poor Medic.
So then I brought him back to where we were supposed to go while they did the send out, and yeah, he was super flat in his obedience, like super flat. He was cleanish enough.
Yeah.
But I could tell, like, he was not motivated. Like, he hit the hurdle. That is unheard of for him. He didn't hit hard, but
yeah,
I was shocked. He hasn't hit a jump since he was, like, young. So I could tell he was sleepy. And we went for protection, and he was still sleepy. This is bullshit.
How about explain to me how tracking works?
Allie.
Like how tracking works in IGP, or how the tracking works for the dog and the little nosy nose?
If you have the ability to explain like the chemicals, absolutely.
Okay, I don't have all the chemical knowledge.
I'm talking about training the tracking.
Training the tracking?
Yeah, like what's that experience look like?
Slow and painful.
Yes, can attest.
Slow and painful. It starts with just footsteps and food in like the smallest tracks imaginable. 5 paces, 10. And just over and over again until the dog gets that muscle memory of right foot, left foot, food, happy times. And then eventually you add more things and more things, depending on whose school of tracking you follow. There are lots of different methods. The one I most commonly see taught here at clubs is a 10-pace footstep track with food in each one. And then gradually you start lengthening the track and spreading out the food and adding things like articles and corners. But it's such a glacial, slow process.
So when I decided to try trialing in tracking after having done it for a week, that was not a good choice. I can teach a stand stay in a week. I cannot teach tracking in a week.
No, it might be easier if IGP tracking was more natural, but it's not. A dog's natural tracking is to pick up their head and cast their head back and forth to find a scent and then follow that scent. It is very unnatural for dogs to dig deep into that grass and go footstep to footstep. And when they lose that, go back to that same footstep instead of picking their heads up and finding where they can find the scent. Like, it's a very unnatural way for dogs to track by sticking their nose to the ground the entire time, which is what good IGP tracking is.
So the mentality of the dog, like what they're thinking in the training session, right? So when we're teaching tracking, we're walking and we're putting food in the footsteps. So the dog is making the association that where there's the scent of the footstep, there is food.
Right.
Ideally.
And really, we're looking more at like the scent of the disturbed ground, more so than the like the person scent itself.
Yes, because no, we can. I would love to debate this.
Yeah, there's still people scent, but the most like ground bacteria make a smell.
Because if you look at the FH, so we talked about this in the beginning of the podcast. We were talking about the different titles offered through like the IGP sport. The FH has things like cross tracks.
Yes.
Right. So if we were focusing just on the disturbed earth, those cross tracks would become difficult. That's a beautiful view, by the way. A very challenging issue to overcome.
Yes. Some would argue that it is the age of the smell. So cross tracks relate at a different time than the original track. And that the dogs should know by the time they get to the cross track what the scent is of the age track that they are going on. But we could go back and forth.
Yeah. Unless we can ask the dog, we'll never really know. However,
that's right.
There is another podcast that if you haven't listened to, it can be really helpful talking about this matter, and it is Sport Dog Radio. They are primarily hunting dog people. And I remember the first episode I listened to, they were talking about like the science of dogs and pointers indicating on birds. And the thing is, they were talking about how the fact that their pointers would point on a live bird, but not on a dead bird.
Mm-hmm.
And so the big conversation was, well, what is it that they indicate on? Like, how do they find the bird? Is it the scent? Do dead birds smell different than live birds? Which is yes. Or are they indicating on the scent of something else in the bird, like the bird's breath, let's say? Because if a dead bird's not breathing, right, there's no scent. Or are they indicating because they can hear the bird or some other sense that they have? So we were talking about that because dogs, I mean, the thing is, like, I don't think it's just one thing. Now, can we use disturbed earth as a foundation for teaching a dog to track? Absolutely. But I think that the dog is using more than just the disturbed earth because, it's a holistic view. Like, hey, there's disturbed earth here in this footstep pattern, and it smells like human. I bet that this is the track that I'm supposed to be following.
Yes, it's a very complex picture.
Yes. Did you know, like, our sense of smell is the one sense that scientists and medical professionals know the least about?
I did not know that, but that makes a lot of sense. Sense.
Get it? Yeah.
Get it?
I don't understand it either. Like, I remember taking science classes on, like, how, like, the rods and the cones and shit work in your eyeballs and your retina and your blind spot. And, like, you have all this information about how our eyes work. But, like, I never learned anything about how, like, our noses work. No idea.
Nope.
I know how my ear works. I know about, like, the different bones, like the hammer and the anvil and all the other shit that's in our ears and our eardrums and our inner ear. But, like, nothing about our noses. You having fun over there getting molested by your Doberman?
I'm having so.
So this is going to be on Spotify and on YouTube. So if you're listening on Spotify, you might want to check out the YouTube video because Allie has been having a wonderful time with all of her dogs tonight.
Friday night. It's peak time for dog shenanigans. But yeah. Felix, this Doberman, will actually snuggle with me, unlike my working dogs. So,
well, if you want to borrow a medic, he'll snuggle you.
Well, if that didn't involve bringing another dog to my house to snuggle with me, I might be into that. But right now, there are too many dogs.
Fair enough. No such thing.
If I had a bigger house, there would be no such thing. But right now, there is such a thing.
All right. Kelly, that was a really great question. Do you have more?
I really put my heart into that one. Tracking's the only thing that I'm like, I guess, not that I'm like not interested in the other stuff, but if it makes sense, like I'm intrigued enough that my brain is like chewing at it. You know
why haven't you done it with Gracie yet?
Yeah, why haven't you done it with Gracie yet?
I need to fix my scent detection before I do tracking.
Scent detection is going to make your tracking so much harder.
Yeah, well, I honestly, like, I would prefer my scent detection. I have more fun doing that.
You haven't tried tracking, so you don't know.
I've accidentally classically conditioned her to hate it. It's my fault.
You're gonna
not there.
Think about tracking versus scent detection. Which one's more fun? Scent detection every time.
Yes, but yes.
It's fun.
There's no scent detection in IGP.
Well, but there is in American Schutzen.
There is scent detection in American Schutzen.
I have my black powder still. I haven't started using it though.
So American Schutzen does scent detection using Pyrodex. And so if you're interested in the sport of IGP and you want to compete, but you freaking hate tracking, American Schutzen is made for you. So the American Schutzen Nationals are coming up next weekend, so you can definitely check those out. Now, we were talking earlier that the IGP Southeast Regionals are going to be when?
February,
and you're trialing in that?
That's like the maybe a goal.
Okay. Well, I'm planning to trial in that. I think, yeah, we'll see. Hey, they said that I don't have to do the full IGP. I just need to do the full IGP if I want a podium.
Ah, yes, that makes sense.
So, yeah, because on my last trial I went to, when I got my 2, I was so stoked. Like, they didn't even, like, present. They just handed me my book. I'm like...
Some clubs do better than other clubs at presenting awards.
And, like, even when I went to go do my one, like, they, like, okay, I'm not all about me, but I was pretty stoked about my Meg's performance. It is about medic. But, like, in the one, they kind of forgot about me, too. Like, oh, yeah, here's your book. I'm like...
Yeah, so it's really rare for clubs to even have, like, certificates or trophies that say GPR on them.
Some bullshit.
Yeah.
This is biased against us non-tracking people.
Well, they really want you to do all 3 phases.
I know. I'm trying here.
I know that wasn't a pointed statement.
I know. Like, they even made a big deal for, like, the person who was doing, like, the AD. I'm like, you just read a bike. So if you don't know, the AD is an endurance test where you and your dog go for a bike ride for 12 miles.
Yeah. There are, like, stops and safety checks and stuff, but generally you go a very long bike ride.
So I was a little butthurt, but you know, he got his letters on his name. We're fine. We got some more alphabet soup for him.
Lay down, Felix. Jesus.
He just wants to show off his butthole to the camera. God.
He's like, look at my balls. They're so great.
Oh man.
I can't wait to never have a boy dog.
Yeah. So in the protection phase of IGP,
yes,
what is the gist of what happens in the protection phase? If you want to walk through the whole routine, you can, because level 1 routine is like a minute and a half. So,
oh sure, you want to walk through the level 1?
Let's do it. Oh god, okay. I mean the level 3 is only like what, 2.5 minutes. It's fine.
Yeah. So there's the blind search, which in the 1, you basically send your dog straight into the blind that has the helper. In the 3, you have to search 6 blinds. The helper is always in the last one. That was my first question when I started IGP. Is like, when does he change places? The answer is never.
I know. I had the same question too the first time. So the first time I got introduced to IGP was at the some training day, and that was the first time I ever saw you. I didn't get to, yeah. I didn't actually get to meet you, but I saw you out there like working the dogs and stuff. So I was like, oh, she's awesome.
Thank you.
I want to be just like her when I grow up. Okay, so in level 1, they go straight to the blind where the helper is, which is the last blind. We'll call it blind 6.
Blind 6. And then they do a bark and hold.
What's that?
The bark and hold is where the dog must bark with some conviction at the helper who is in the blind. So he's standing in the little teepee, and the dog is basically trying to keep him in that little corner, fearing for his life. They don't say fearing for his life in the rulebook, but that's like how I like to imagine it.
But when you see how close Medic gets to the helper's face, I can only assume they're slightly nervous at least.
And so the dog's supposed to stay there and continually bark at the helper. And then the judge will signal you over, and the handler comes back to the blind and stands about 5 to 7 paces away from the blind. And then they will call the dog out of the blind. So in the 1, you can do a call out, which is where you say here and then your healing word. So you call them and then put them into a basic position. Or you can go up to the dog, tell them to sit, and then heal away back to that position. You can do a pickup style. It does not matter for the 1. You can choose either one. And then after you have picked up the dog or called the dog out, you indicate to the helper to step out of the blind and go to the escape position. So the helper sets up for the escape. The handler will heal their dog over to the escape position where there is a marked line where you have to be behind. They will put the dog in a down, and then they will return to the blind while their dog stays in that down. The helper will run. You tell the dog to go. You cannot tell the dog to bite or attack. You must.
That is very important information for people to know.
It is. It is. It is. The dog should bite the sleeve on the helper and then attempt to stop the helper from moving. Generally, this means that the helper just keeps running. Most dogs are too small to actually stop the helper.
I feel attacked, okay?
Medic is just a tiny, teeny baby.
He's just a little guy.
He's just a little guy. So the helper will stop at a certain point in the field. He will turn and lock up. So he will basically freeze. The dog should be facing the handler. So the back of the dog should be facing the handler. The dog should still be on the sleeve. The handler will out the dog. So the dog should out and then start guarding. Some dogs will do a silent guard. Some dogs will do a bark and hold style guard. Basically, they have to show attentiveness to the helper and that they are watching him and able to react if he reacts, which happens immediately, like 3 seconds after the out. The helper will re-attack the dog. The dog should engage fully, and then the helper will drive the dog. Don't eat my plant, Felix. So then the helper will drive the dog. So driving the dog is threatening the dog from above. There used to be stick hits, but now there are not. I don't think there are ever stick hits in the one, but I don't remember anymore.
So
like
now, and I remind just to clarify.
Yeah.
So there used to be stick hits where they would use a padded leather stick, which it looks way worse when you don't understand the stick. The stick is like this weird, like flimsy stick.
It's wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, it's like super like I want to call it flaccid, but it's
no, we can't call
that's
it
not the right word.
It's not the right word.
It's not a very like sturdy stick. First off, and the way that like it moves, it makes it look like the person is swinging it way harder than they actually are, and it's padded. And what the intent was when you're the helper and you are hitting the dog, which we don't do stick hits anymore in IGP. When you do hit the dog, you're hitting them specifically like in the side of the ribs. You're not trying to hit them in the spine or anywhere you can injure the dog. And honestly, most dogs who are trained for this sport kind of like it. I know my dog does. So he was very sad when I told him they don't do stick hits anymore.
Yes. Yeah. So they got rid of stick hits. Then after the drive, where the helper is threatening your dog, he locks up again. You out your dog. The dog should return to guarding, whether that is a silent guard or a bark and hold. And then you walk up to your dog. You put them in a sit. Then you transport to the jud. No, not in the one. In the one, you head all the way down for the long bite, which is not very far. It's like 30 paces in the one.
And the helper stays where you left him.
Yes, the helper stays where you left him. You set up for the long bite by turning downfield towards the helper. Your dog should be in a sit. You can grab the collar if needed. And the helper returns to center field directly opposite you and then runs toward the dog and you while making threatening noises and motions. So
usually they say, hey.
Usually, hey. There are some helpers out there that it's more like a, hey!
What the fuck?
Yeah, there's a helper in North Carolina that is known for his high-pitched yelp.
That's funny.
On his long bites. And like most people, anybody who listens to this who is in the area or has seen him work will know exactly who I'm talking about. Like it is distinctive. And then the dog is supposed to run downfield, grip the sleeve. The helper's aim is to put the dog back on the ground as soon and as safely as possible.
And ideally not jam up your dog.
Right. Ideally not jam your dog. Ideally not break anything. And then in the one there, they drive the dog immediately?
Yep.
Yeah. They do another drive. There's another out. And then you walk up to the dog, pick the dog up. So you put the dog in a sit. You tell the helper to step back. Then you transport. So you do a side transport by walking next to the helper. Your dog
so
is
you
between.
don't tell the helper to step back.
You can.
You can. But you don't.
You can.
Oh, you don't have to.
You don't have to. But
So
you can absolutely direct the helper to help her
This is
step
another
back.
one of those times when I read the rule book and no one really told me like anything. I just did what the rule book said. And so so you're supposed to take the stick from the helper. And the rule book says you can take the stick from the helper any way you want.
Yes.
Right? I said, sweet. Well, that's the next thing it says to do. So give me your stick. And the helper's always like he gets wide eyed, like, you want me to what? Like, give me your stick. Because I'm standing in front of the helper with my dog in a guard. And he's like afraid to like lift the stick up, thinking my dog is going to bite him. To hand me his stick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every single time it catches them way off guard.
So normally in IGP, when you can tell the helper to step back if you need to, but you will foosh your dog, you will heel your dog away into the right side of the helper. The helper will hold the stick out for you, and you will take the stick from them after you reach that position in line with them.
Normally. So then you go into the side transport. What's the side transport supposed to look like?
The side transport, you are walking right next to the helper on the right-hand side of the helper. The dog is in between you. The dog can look either at the helper or in a heel. It does not matter.
Perfect picture. Perfect picture. The dog is supposed to be looking at the helper.
Yes. In an ideal world, the dog looks at the helper. It is focused on the helper. It does not look at you. You walk. The dog should stay in line with you and the helper. You walk all the way to the judge, wherever he may be. You stop. The dog should sit. The helper generally steps to the side. You hand the stick to the judge. You tell him you're checking out. You walk 5 paces away and release your dog. Put the leash back on. Not release them. Don't just let them go.
Leash.
Releash.
Yeah.
That one's all hard. And then it's over.
And that's over. So
it's like 1 minute and 15 seconds. So fast.
The level 2 is pretty similar. Starting out with the blind search, instead of just sending them straight to the blind, you do 4 blinds, which it's a good thing I read the rule book because I thought it was 3 until like the day before. I'm like, oh, I've got to do 4, I guess.
Nope. Yeah.
That's the beauty. So this is one of the reasons why I try not to hammer the routine too much, because if I was hammering that routine with 3 blinds, and I went out there and go, oh shit, I gotta do 4 blinds, my dog might struggle. But, I just say, whatever I point at, go run around that thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 4 blinds for the 2. You do the same
he skipped blind 5 when I did it. And so I sent him back to blind 5 to do it again. He did it. It was great. He did fine. One of those things again, though, where someone was like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I lost a couple points because I used an extra command, but he did it. So.
Blind search, another bark and hold. The escape is the same. Mm-hmm. The drive is the same. And then after the drive, you go and pick up your dog and you do a back transport.
Yep.
So you ask the helper to step back and turn around, and then you walk 8 paces behind the helper. The helper is facing away from you.
So here's another part that's not in the rule book. Or I don't know if maybe they just did it differently. I'm questionable about how this kind of went. it was what we call a learning trial. So I told the helper to step back and move out because that's what the book said.
Yep.
And then what it said was once the helper was 8 paces away, I would start following the helper.
Yes.
Right. I didn't know that I was supposed to wait for the helper to stop, and then we would start going together.
So the helper is, if you tell the helper to turn around and move out, they are supposed to keep going. The helper is supposed to follow the commands of the handler. So some people will tell the helper to turn around and step away, or turn around and move out. But you are supposed to say turn around and move out, and he's supposed to keep walking.
Oh. Well, I told him to, whatever it was, step back, move out, and then I wasn't really counting. So when I thought he was at 8 paces, I started walking, in my transport. And they're like, no, you're supposed to wait for me to stop. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. And then we did our transport. But funny thing was, so at the end of the back transport, what happens?
At the end of the back transport in the number in the 2, you walk directly into a side transport.
Right. So the helper stops and you keep walking up into that side transport. Funniest thing ever, we've never trained this before. I have no idea why Medic decided to do this, but he decided that his new side transport was going to be in between the helper's legs.
All that PSA training.
We've never done it in PSA.
I know.
He just like, this is the shortest distance to the sleeve.
Bless his heart.
Yeah, he tries. Yeah. But then usually the side transport, it's supposed to be whatever it was, like 10 paces or whatever. It's usually like 2 paces. Like we do like 2 paces, like they're just like, yeah, you're here. Great.
Yeah, it really depends on how far away the judge is.
Yeah. And at the end, what did I do? So at the end of the 2, because the side transport's the same at the end of the 2 after the long bite. I tried to hand the stick to the judge, and the judge is like, don't give it to me, give it to the helper. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's judge preference right there, I think.
Fair enough. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Judges vary widely.
Yes.
Thankfully I got my 2, so I can tell you guys this little secret here. I was shitting my pants on the trial field during my level 2 obedience because I didn't realize this until I was complete with my long down and now in my healing pattern of my level 2 that I still had my e-collar remote in my pocket. And the lanyard of it was hanging out.
Yeah, you can't have any training tools on you.
Nope. And so, like, I remember I had left my dog in the sit stay, and that was when I kind of realized it. And while my dog was in the sit stay, and I knew the judge would be looking at my dog, I quickly took that lanyard and shoved it in my pocket.
Oh!
And so he didn't say anything about it. I don't know if he didn't notice it. I don't know how he didn't notice it because my lanyard's bright pink and I was wearing black pants. I'm like, but obviously my dog wasn't wearing an e-collar, so it didn't matter.
Right. But
yeah,
it would have been called a training tool.
Yeah, and I would have been disqualified.
Yes.
Yep. Thankfully, in PSA, before you walk on the field, the steward generally, at least at a club level, will be like, take everything out of your pockets. Like, regardless if it's keys or pocket change, no. Don't go on the field with anything in your pockets. And the steward will be there, like, checking your pockets, essentially. Not actually, like, physically checking your pockets, but, like, double checking that you have nothing in your pockets.
Yeah, we don't have one of those in IGP.
No. So in PSA, the steward is telling you, like, proceed to the start cone. Heel forward. Figure 8 the cones. Halt. Heel forward. Leave your dog. Turn left. Turn right. Like, literally every step you take is dictated by the steward. You don't have to memorize anything. You could show up not knowing anything about the sport, and the steward's going to tell you what to do. Beautiful.
So crazy.
It's
so
not
crazy.
It's so easy because you just go out there and just do what you're told.
I'm not good at doing that.
The steward's going to be like, okay, walk forward, turn left, fast pace, slow pace, about turn. You don't have to memorize anything. You don't have to count your paces.
Yeah, I find it very soothing to have it memorized and get to count because it keeps my mind on something different.
But however, you know what IGP has done to me is I count my goddamn steps to everything. Like I was walking to the long down. I'm like, that was 47 steps. Yeah, there's no reason.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah. But the last trial I did, I do like a little shit talking. Not too much though, just enough. The judge took off points from everybody because apparently every single person in their build up to their sit did 19 steps. Everybody did 19 steps. I'm like, did we really?
Okay.
Like I count constantly. I'm questioning that. I can't not count. I know exactly how many steps I did.
Yeah, that's a little crazy that all of you did it.
But the thing was, like, I passed by the skin of my teeth. Like, it was, I don't know. I don't know if I should have passed, but I did. Like, it was not good. But the thing was, I was ecstatic that I passed. I was ecstatic that Meta got his GPR2 title. That's so cool. The guy
I used to train with someone in Memphis who said if you got like a 90, he's like, you had 20 more points to lose.
Yeah.
You didn't take full advantage. And so I like to keep that in my head every time I trial.
My protection score was 70.
It's perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect score right there. No, but the guy who was doing his 3 that day, he got high in trial. He almost got high in everything except for one. Someone else got that. But like, he was pissed. He was pissed when the judge was like, oh, you did 19 steps. And he did 19 steps too. He's like, no, I didn't. Like, he was mad, like real mad. And like, he was mad the rest of the day. He was mad when he got his goddamn trophies. I'm like, he went home mad that day after getting his IGP3, taking home a handful of trophies, going home pissed off. Like, you should not be trialing if this is like what you're feeling when you're going home at the end of the day. We went to go do scent detection with Ben Lipinski, and I tell the story every time. Ben Lipinski's like, are you out here to learn, scent detection for fun, for contracting, for police work, for American Schützen? What are you doing scent detection for? And I'm like, American Schützen is fun. He's like, good point. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, the sport's supposed to be fun. And I think so many people these days, especially in IGP, like, don't let it be fun.
Yes. Lars Lentz, when he does tracking seminars, will tell you that if you're not having fun doing your hobby, which this sport is for most people, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Which is like just very true. So,
yeah. And I think that's so important too. And it's very important for IGP people because unfortunately, IGP clubs and IGP trainers are notoriously kind of heavy-handed on their dogs, meaning they go a little too hard on their dogs, sometimes a lot too hard on their dogs. And, it's so common to see people get so upset. Like, I'm at the RH Nationals this weekend, and it's really cool to see everyone out there. Like, the sport looks really interesting, and I really want to give it a shot at some point in my life, at some point in Medic's life. But, I was listening to someone who came off the field, who scored a 90, and I'm like, that's amazing. 90 is awesome. And this person was pissed. They were pissed that they got a 90. I'm like, why? 90 is amazing. That's what is it? With highest honors or whatever it is. What's it called when you get 90 or above? Distinction. With distinction.
Yeah. It all depends on the person, right? Like Schutzen is such a long, like, old sport that there are a lot of really old people in it.
That's
No,
that's bold.
not to call people old, but
no, you're right. It's a lot of the older generations.
Yes, it can be really easy for people to get stuck in their ways, and I think we all know some boomers who haven't changed in any kind of way from how they were doing things 20 to 30 years ago. It is getting better. New methods are coming out that people are using in IGP. The things that like Canamo are doing in starting up like helper camp and getting people on the same page about how to build up dogs in a way that is not nearly as heavy-handed as it used to be, is really giving us a universal language to use. That means that you can go from trainer to trainer and know that you're getting the same ideas. But that's only just started in the last 5 years. And it takes a long, long time for change to enact, especially in an institution that has been around for decades.
Oh, yeah.
And there's constantly talk, from people who've been in the sport for a while, that the sport is getting easier and softer because we're not doing stick hits, or the A-frame used to be a straight up wall, and that you used to have to do a retriever of the A-frame in the one. But then if you go back and you look at the dogs that were doing those in the 80s, like if you see a video of a dog doing the routine in the 80s, like the dog doesn't look nearly as good as the dogs we have now. Right? Yep. We've come so far in the way that we train our dogs, the precision that we look for our dogs. And it's going to hopefully continue to evolve in a way that is much more fair and humane to our dogs and to the people who participate in the sport.
Yeah. And a lot of those changes were for safety reasons, right?
Yes.
It's not safe on your dog and their joints to send them over a straight up wall.
Over and over again.
Yeah. The A-frame gives you the opportunity for the dog to slow their descent. So they're not slamming down on their joints. And, allowing them to use the level 1 dumbbell on the hurdle and the A-frame allows them to, scale those obstacles safely as well.
Right.
And I feel like with the stick hits, there is definitely a way to do that safely, but that I think was more of a political agenda. I don't want to say that in a bad way. Like, the issue with the stick hits is that for the people who aren't involved in the sport, it looks bad. But once you understand, there is a safe way to apply those, and there's a purpose for them too, because the sport used to be the measure for establishing dogs that were reputable for police work. Yes. And if you think about a dog who's a police dog, right, going out and biting bad guys, that bad guy is not going to just sit back and take it. That bad guy is going to fight back. Now, in training, we have to show the dog that picture, but we don't want to injure the dogs. We have to be able to kind of recreate it in a way that's safe. And that's essentially what those stick hits are supposed to be. Now, this IGP is no longer the standard, at least not in the United States, for establishing dogs of quality for police work. No. There are other methods and means of doing that at this point. So therefore, the necessity of the stick hits in the sport has essentially gone away. So as far as testing the dog's, mental and emotional toughness and temperament and ability to, maintain their grip through pressure through the fight, but I mean, hell, if Medic can do it, any dog can do it, let me say.
I just the dogs that I have seen release or let go or shy away during the drive, shy away even when you're not hitting them.
Yeah.
Like the pressure itself, the presence of the helper, something coming over their head is enough to make them scared.
Yeah. And, so in the PSA world, and the vast majority of the seminars I've gone to have been primarily focused on like the bite techniques, the bite fundamentals that go into PSA. Because when we start talking about the bite, the differences between IGP and PSA, IGP, everyone's like, we want the dog to pull, we don't want the dog to counter. In PSA, we want the dog to push, we want the dog to counter in, we want to, either way, full grip is full grip. But everything we're teaching in PSA is kind of different and counter to what they teach for IGP dogs. And what we do in PSA is we teach the dog that stick hit, when you feel that pressure, when you feel that stick hit, that is a cue for you to push in more. And, and we work it into the training so much. And I'm sure that, in IGP, they did it for a long time as well. Now that they're not doing stick hits, there's not really necessity necessarily, but I think a lot of dogs actually like it. I know Medic does. He's weird. He's like, hit me harder.
Yeah. Well, Sully loves to fight.
Oh, I know Sully does. Oh my God. Right, Kelly? Kelly hates IGP.
Kelly, to be fair, I offered to let Sully muzzle fight you.
I couldn't hear anything that anyone said because everyone talked at the same time, and it was just vowels from different people.
I said that I offered to let Sully muzzle fight you.
Will she muzzle fight me?
She muzzle fought Brooke. And you're a stranger, pretty much. So probably. I mean, it would be like the PSA standard.
But she would have fun. That's what's important.
She would have a blast. She would have a blast.
Kelly, why do you hate IGP bite work?
Because dogs pulling on you while you're trying to move hurts your back every time.
Yep.
Also, it's a lot easier for me to catch in a suit than it is for me, like on a bicep or like, I hate doing leg bites. We're not going to talk about leg bites.
Leg bites are hard. I'm not going to lie. I don't like leg bites either.
It's more of the anxiety of like, I'm scared I'm going to trip and fall. Even though I'd probably fall backwards away from the dog, I still don't want to like fall. But in IGP, like I don't know, to me it's a lot easier to catch bicep because it's closer to my like center of mass versus catching on the sleeve, doing a whole thing. I figured it out eventually. It was weird learning it, but I find it easier to drive the dog when they're up on my body versus like the whole.
The interesting thing about the difference is, and I'm not a certified helper. Kelly's not a certified helper. No one here is a certified helper. So take all this information with a grain of salt. But as someone who has caught dogs on the suit, on the sleeve, the biggest challenge I find, and I struggle with the sleeve as well, is you got this big honking sleeve and it's on your forearm, right? And the forearm's out in front of like the center of your body, give or take, when the dog's coming in. And we're going to talk about like the long bite. So the dog's coming in, long bite means the dog's running at you for about 30 paces and then leaping through the air and coming at you full force very fast. Your job as the helper is to catch that dog safely. What that means is that as that dog is coming in and hitting that sleeve, that you're absorbing that impact. So the dog is not compressing their spine. They're not getting injured. You're not what we call jamming up the dog. So when you hear jamming up the dog, that means that you are not absorbing that. And the dog is hitting you like a brick wall, essentially. And it's very dangerous to the dog's neck. So as a helper, you have to decide as that dog is coming in, which direction you're going to absorb that bite. So when I say which direction you're going to go, you have to turn your body to allow that dog to kind of come through that bite. Now, some dogs will kind of go off to the sleeve side, which I find in IGP is most common. Most commonly, dogs are going to go off to the helper's left, which is the side the sleeve is on, the arm that sleeve is on. My dog goes stick side because we have practiced flea bites where the person's running away and the sleeve is out to the side on the left. So he's coming around and swinging around the stick side, so the right side of the helper. And I think it catches a lot of people by surprise, and they can't quite get their body out of the way, out from behind the sleeve fast enough for the dog to be able to kind of come through. And the dog hits sleeve, body, and gets jammed like a brick wall. And it makes me very upset because Tinky comes in very fast. But the thing is, he's fast at the last minute. So he starts running like kind of slowish and like, oh, this is going to be a slow dog. And then like the last 10 paces, he's like, just kidding. And he comes in very fast. So, but with a really good helper, he's very fun to catch because he's fast and he's light and he flies through the air. But finding talented helpers is hard because the certification process for IGP helpers is questionable.
Fair enough.
Whereas the selection process for trial decoys in PSA is a 2-day hardcore smoke session with standards that are unbelievably high. And if you have 20 people trying to certify, you're lucky if maybe half pass. There have been decoy camps where like one person passed and no one else passed. And it's usually in the middle of the summer when it's like 1,000,000 degrees outside here in North Carolina, and you're wearing your bite suit all day and you're running and you're dragging, sandbags and lifting tires and carrying logs and doing burpees and catching dogs all day. And then at the end of it, essentially what you're doing is to see if, in a trial, when you're working all day long, can you catch the first dog and the last dog exactly the same, i.e. safely, correctly, and able to do what you need to do because you need to be able to show the judge the grip and everything in between. So, not that we have favorites here, but I'm a little partial. I really love the sport of IGP, but like, there's been so many instances where like either my dog has had a bad experience, my dog has been put in danger, my dog has been mishandled, and it's like it's this concept that's almost pervasive. And I'm not gonna say like everywhere, every person who does the sport, every club necessarily, but it's far too common that there isn't a higher concern for dog health, mentality, emotion, and safety throughout the sport, which I think needs to be a much higher priority at every club, but it's not, and it makes me sad. But the sport itself is great. I like the sport because, you can go out and get your BH with almost any dog. With enough training, you can do it. Mm-hmm. And it's great because it's such like a sense of like success, and that's how people get addicted. Like Allie and me. And then, it's your gateway drug into trialing with your dog and training with your dog every other weekend or twice a week or everything in between. And yeah.
And you're stuck.
And then you're stuck doing it forever and spending all of your extra cash on entry fees and trial dues and training dues and club dues and helper decoys. And this has been a very long, fun conversation about IGP. So, Allie, what would you like to see for the future of the sport? And how can we be the change we want to see in the sport?
What I really want
yes, what you really want
is the USCA to have a better website.
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
It's a terrible website and I hate it. Also, we are a little stuck in the dark ages with how we submit paperwork, and the fact that none of it is online is infuriating. Not that the forms aren't available online, because they are. But you have to mail those in. Mail them in.
Yep.
And that's annoying. And I realize that those are very like administrative things.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Sure. Petty things. But it's like the first thing that comes to mind. I'm like, what is the change I want? That. But like in a grander picture, I just want more dogs to enjoy it and more people to enjoy it. There's a lot of people that do the sport and seem to hate it.
Yeah.
But they're out there every day. And I don't get it. And then in general, I want more cohesiveness between groups. Like there's a lot of clubs that just don't interact with each other, even though we have like 10 clubs in North Carolina that are all very, very close together. And that's not saying that we haven't done things in the past, but like, I don't know, it's very segmented at parts, and that bums me out.
I agree. Yeah. I like that. That's very good. Yeah, I think I visited most of the clubs, many of the clubs. If I haven't visited them for the like a training day, I've trialed with them. So yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Kelly, you got anything?
I don't think so.
No thoughts there, just smooth brain.
Yes.
Smooth, beautiful, no wrinkles.
No wrinkles, no bumps. All right, cool. All right. So, yeah. So if you want to come check it out, I will be trialing this month on the 25th. So that's November 25th. I'll be trialing with Piedmont, I think. It's Piedmont Club. I want to guess it's Piedmont Club. I can't remember. I've done so many trials and events in the past couple months, I forget. But if you look on the USCA website, which is GermanShepherdDog.com, it's on there. You can look under the events, under the Southeast events. It's the 25th of November. Yeah, I'm going to try my 3. I don't have high hopes of passing it, but we're going to have fun, and that's all that matters. I guarantee I will be the happiest person walking off the field, regardless if we pass or not.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a great takeaway.
Yeah. And Medic's going to be the happiest dog because he's always is. He's just a good boy. Next week, we got a big week for interviews. I'm super excited for our podcast. Next week, we got an interview lined up with Mark Goldberg, who is the author of some of my absolute favorite dog training books. My favorite that I recommend to my pet dog clients is Let Dogs Be Dogs. If you are interested in learning more about e-collar training, for pet dog training for the most part, The Art of Training Your Dog is a really great place to start learning about the e-collar, and it has an entire step-by-step, day-by-day training guide in the second half of the book. So if you want to get started with e-collar, check out The Art of Training Your Dog by Mark Goldberg. Mark also partners with the Monks of New Skeet, who run a German Shepherd breeding program, and they also help co-author many of those books as well. We have another interview lined up next week with one of my clients to have a conversation about what it's like to be a kind of a dog owner / new to dog training, starting to get into the dog sports with the dogs that she currently has. And we're going to get into the weeds with that and where, how you can get started. So I wanted to have this conversation today with Allie to get an understanding of the sport of IGP. So that way, next week when we talk with someone who's starting out their journey, we can have a better understanding about the process, the path, and where we go from there. It's good to have the long-term picture in your brain before you start working on those small pieces. Other updates. Again, next week is the American Schutzen Nationals. If you want to check that out, you should be available streaming online somewhere. I'll get the information to you by next week. And Thanksgiving is coming up, so if you need boarding and you're here in North Carolina, you can hit me up, airbornecanine.com. Allie, are you doing boarding through your company?
I do boarding through my company, but not for Thanksgiving.
Allie, what is your company name?
Purple Dog. Purple Dog. You can find us at purpledognc.com.
purpledognc.com. Check them out. Allie, what does your company do?
We do mainly pet board and trains, private lessons, and boarding for clients.
So. Awesome. I highly recommend it. Allie's awesome. And Brooke will be back. She's part of your company too, so kind of?
Yeah, she is part of the company. She is the co-owner of the company. She is away at military working dog training and will finally be back come Thanksgiving.
We'll finally have a helper again.
We'll finally have a helper again. We'll be working on filling up our schedule again, but we've been taking a long break while I have too many dogs at home to deal with client dogs.
Oh my God. All right. So yeah, check them out. purpledognc.com. Right?
Yes, right.
Awesome. For Airborne Canine news and updates, don't forget, check out our merch shop, our gear shop, our pro shop, whatever it's called now. I think we just changed it. But we are now selling Viper Canine products. Our Viper Canine, I sold almost out of all of my Viper Canine products today at the event, and I feel really bad because I'm going back tomorrow, and I'm not going to have any more to bring because I brought all of my merchandise. But those products are available on our website, so if you want to order them and we don't have them in stock, let us know. I can get them for you. I just placed an order for more, so we should have them soon. We also have the Star Mark products. The treat pouches are totally sold out. They're sold out from them too, so stand by while I get more. Herm Springer, so if you need your fur savers for trial, we have them in stock, ready to ship. You can order them on the website. We have the black and the stainless steel. Prong collars with quick releases, prong collars without quick releases. We have those in chrome, stainless steel, and black. So the 2.25 millimeters are usually our favorite. But we also do have the 3 millimeters. Dakota Kennels, Inukshuk, Dog Food, E-Collar Technologies, Dogtra, all these great brands. We have them here. We have them in stock. We have them ready to ship. We have them. Some items are free shipping, others are not. Custom can curtains. God, we got it all. I can't believe we do all this crazy shit. But yeah, if you need anything, let us know. Board and train, day school, private lessons, group classes. If you want to try out IGP or any of the other sports with your dog, come check out the Airborne Canine Advanced Obedience and Sport Dog Club, which is meeting on Thursday nights. Give me a call, shoot me a message, let me know that you're coming. We do now have just basic obedience group classes on the schedule. You can check out our class schedule on airbornecanine.com. Go to services, look for the class that you want, and I'll show you what the schedule is. We are also having our tracking club, one, because it forces me to go tracking. But if you want to learn more about tracking, join us for our tracking club. The schedule for that is on our website as well. It's going to be many Sundays, not every Sunday. So do check the schedule, but most Sundays at 8 a.m. because tracking has to, for some reason, happen at the crack of dawn. Yeah, this is the best time.
Grass.
I know. It's so early. That's the main reason why I hate tracking. I hate anything that happens in the morning.
The summer, and we get to go tracking at like 5
a.m. No. I like right now, like at 8 o'clock, there's still it's still dark outside.
Yes.
So like this morning, I've figured out my life hack for actually waking up early and like being okay with it. I went to bed last night knowing I had to be at the event this morning by like 8 o'clock. And I did not set an alarm because I felt like crap last night. And I said, you know what? If I oversleep, at least I'll feel better. No, I woke up at 5:50. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, well, I guess it's time to get up now. And it was dark out. And I was like, it was okay with it. So I'm just going to stop setting my alarm and just start being late to stuff.
Great, that's great. I just got a message from Chewy that they have refunded me for all 3 bags of Victor that is sitting in my garage.
Oh, wow.
So
if you ordered your Victor from Chewy, you got to do message them, let them know.
Yeah, I just sent them a message. Send them an email.
Yeah.
So, easy peasy.
So again, if you have Victor dog food or if you've been feeding Victor dog food and you are going to return your bags and you need a replacement, Inukshuk Professional Dog Food is an excellent alternative, great source of protein and all the healthy nutrition your dog needs, especially if your dog is a sport dog who's active. Inukshuk has everything you need. Even if your dog's not active, we have formulas that are going to fit your dog's calorie needs. All right, Kelly, did I miss anything? Don't tell me the social shares. Sorry. I thought you were going to say it. I'm like, yeah.
You stole her thunder.
No, I was going to say, I can't believe you're out of treat pouches because I just broke mine.
I can get you a pet safe one.
Don't want that.
What's wrong with it?
Well, how did yours break?
So the little, actually, I don't know how it happened. I just noticed the other day. I don't have it in here.
Okay, what is broken?
The clippy part. Like, I was walking away. I had Gracie down. I was walking away, and then I think I was gonna go plant a scent, and then my treat pouch just fell off and spilled food all over. Even though it's got that little thing, it's got a little fabric covering that you can stick your hand in. It all fell out, which ruined my scent detection, by the way. And yeah, it's the clippy's cracked. So
you can just buy a new clip. You know that?
Yeah.
Go to Kohl's, buy a new clip, fix it, be $1.50. Great.
Follow us: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. What I miss? YouTube.
Yeah. YouTube.
It's all Airborne Canine. If you want to follow Kelly, she's Airborne Canine Texas. Does Purple Dog have social shares or social media?
Yeah, we are Purple Dog NC on all the places.
I will follow you.
We're
at least on Instagram. Maybe not all the places. We don't have a Twitter. We don't have a YouTube.
Nobody has Twitter. Twitter is not a thing anymore. Twitter is now not.
We don't have an X. Okay. But you can find us on Facebook and Instagram.
You guys gotta get a TikTok, and then you'll be real famous.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm trying to bribe Brooke into coming home in her uniform so we can film her reuniting with her dog and
God, yes.
monetize it and get money. Yep. But she's like, I don't want to wear my uniform. I'm like, but it makes it better.
See, are you gonna film when she gets back to the house, or are you gonna go pick her up from the airport, or how's this gonna work?
She is driving back, so when she gets to the house,
tell her to have her uniform in the car, stop at the gas station on the way home.
What I'm working on. She's like, I'm still a soldier if I'm not wearing my uniform. And I'm like, but the visual is better if you are.
Yes, people will see it and understand. It's for the gram. Do it for the gram.
Yeah, she's not sold on the idea, so
she'll get there. All right. We have been talking way too long. It's late. We're all going to nights now.
Yeah, Felix is putting himself to bed.
Good job, Felix. And my dogs are losing their shit too. So, all right, folks. Follow us on everything: Instagram, social media, Facebook, all of it. Buy our stuff on our website. And go out and train your dogs. Have fun. If you want to learn more about IGP, hit us up, call us, text us, and enjoy your day with your dog.